Guys that were hired out in the 60s and 70s, they're retired and gone, and they were tough.
When a lot of the people that first hire on here see the romantic side of it and they don't see the cleaning out a moose from underneath the train, they don't see the unromantic side of it.
It is a shock to a lot of people working on a train that may be broken down for some reason, and it might be 40 below zero.
When I came here, I wasn't sure how many women actually worked on the railroad.
You see more and more women taking leadership roles at our company. What that really shows is Alaska is a state. It doesn't matter who you are, if you can get the job done, they need you in those positions.
There's all kinds of unpredictable variables that go into having a great day or a terrible day. Learning more so about the technique and the skill rather than manhandling anything was essential for me. My name is Rihanna. I'm a train conductor and freelance artist up in Alaska. I was born and raised in Texas. When I was 17 and still in high school, I moved up to Alaska all on my own. Conductor's cleared. I had been working on the trains for 6 years. I started out as a prep cook, then the lead cook, then the trainer for other cooks, and then went up as a bartender and server, and I loved that. But when I was in the coaches, I'd see all these happy train conductors in their full uniform and, you know, playing a harmonica, and I'm like, oh, they look like they're having the best time of their life. I wanna do that. And so I applied, and then later on I figured out really what I was getting myself into. One of my trainers and one of my, favorite people there at the Alaska Railroad, Mike Reed, day one in class, he comes up to me with a stack full of books and he's like, you're gonna memorize all of these. And I'm like, where am I? What am I doing? What?
I first encountered Rihanna during the interview process. She did great. That's why she's here, obviously. And she went through the training program. And she's doing her best to be the best conductor she can be. I'm Michael Reed. I'm a road foreman of engines for the Alaska Railroad, which is in charge of the conductor and engineer certification. Believe it or not, she's a good student. She might tell you I was a little hard on her, but I was just trying to push her to be her best.
So there's a total of 10 different horn signals, I think 10 maybe, and the one that I just used was 8, and it goes and then right before the crossing, one short one, and then over the crossing, the entire engine has to be blowing. Dead man switch. So if I randomly die and this doesn't get pushed because I'm obviously not responding, it'll plug the train, put the train into emergency, stop the train.
I met Rihanna last winter as a new hire, and I seen her in the good and the bad. I'm Chad Frank. I'm a conductor engineer on the Alaska Railroad. I've been here since March of 2006. It's tough coming into this career, into this field, into this world. Rihanna embodies the character of everybody up here, the can-do attitude, get it done. I think Rihanna has paid her dues and she's here with us today and it makes me happy.
My name is Donna Riemann Snyder. I am Rihanna Sather's mom. She's determined to get the things that she wants out of life. She goes after things and she usually gets them. She's really good about that. Yes, I do worry about her wearing herself out, giving too much and not realizing her limits.
But you can't talk about Rihanna unless you talk about the people that came before her, like the Alaska Native women that were Gandhi dancers during the war, the female conductors that have already paved the path for her, Wanda Robinson, Louis Carey. They embody everything that Rihanna embodies, and that's courage and willing to put themselves out there in a field that is dominated by men.
I think what's important about the Alaska Railroad is roughly 80% of our workforce is male and 20% is women. And I think you see more and more women taking leadership roles at our company. Our CFO is female. I myself obviously am female. We have female members of our board. My name is Christy Terry. I work for the Alaska Railroad Corporation. I'm the Director of External Affairs.
My name is John Garner. I'm the Superintendent of Transportation here at the Alaska Railroad. It's an industry that is very archaic. It's very old. It's one of those ones I think people think about when they talk about the building of America and how it happened, right? And so things have changed in this industry a ton with just not only how we operate, but with the diversity of a group of people that we have coming in here.
My name is Emily Pratt. I am a conductor trainee. It's really cool to see that there's other women around. Actually, last week I worked with an all-female crew where I was a female student with a female conductor and a female engineer. And so we were kind of like our own little railroad girl gang, and it was fun. We worked really well together. We got stuff done, and yeah, it's pretty cool to see those little instances coming together. So it's not common. Really cool job. It's probably the coolest, weirdest job that I've ever had.
The Alaska Railroad spans almost 500 miles of track, and on this railroad there are so many different jobs, and each job is starkly different from one another. And each day, even if you are on that same exact job, each day is going to be very different. We have two different types of trains. We have coach trains that carry strictly, it's just a passenger train, or freight trains that have all kinds of different types of cargo.
There are lots of challenges, and it's not specifically just to being a woman, it's for everyone. Being away from home is hard on people. Anyone that has a family or significant other, being away from that person for long periods of time. Another big factor that people don't realize is you gotta turn your phone off. The job can wear on you.
I guess the only challenge that I personally faced, especially in the very beginning, was just the physical aspect of it. There's a lot that goes to being a train conductor. And it's not just being in a suit and walking around super happy. I mean, that's part of the fun, but a huge part of it is being in the middle of nowhere with no cell reception half the time. You're not allowed to carry a phone, and you're not allowed to have it on. Your only mode of conversating with anybody is by this radio, and sometimes that might, there's all kinds of unpredictable variables that go into potentially having a great day or a terrible day. Safety is our number one priority on the Alaska Railroad. You have to be smart while you're out there on the field. You're not just risking your own life out there. Some of our trains can carry more than 500 passengers at a time. You have so many lives in your hands that you are liable for in protecting and making sure you get from point A to point B.
This craft is predominantly male. And I think anytime you are a minority, or there aren't as many look-alike people, it's going to be a little bit harder than most.
I never felt oppressed in the workplace for being a female train conductor. That being said, I believe that there's other women who have paved the road for me, such as Wanda Robinson and Linnea Crosby and so many other women that have made this a wonderful workplace for future female railroaders.
When I hired out, there were 7 women in train and engine service. I've been here 44 years. The ones that came before my friend Patty and I, they paved the way for us. She talks about Wanda Robinson. She had to go through a lot of hard knocks because the men were not very nice. But between her and several others, it was much easier for Patty and I. And now we seem to be attracting women. And it's much easier for them. We're a kinder, gentler world. Guys that were hired out in the 60s and 70s, they're retired and gone. And they were tough. I felt that if I didn't do 150%, that they would be like, get rid of her. My name is Linnea Crosby, and I'm an engineer on the Alaska Railroad. Started out as a brakeman, and then promoted to a conductor, and now an engineer.
We're in Alaska here and on the north end of the Anchorage yard. I was explaining that one of the most important parts of my job as a train conductor is securement, and that falls into line with tying handbrakes. We don't want any free-rolling cars, of course, and so I got to make sure I have enough handbrakes applied for the amount of tonnage that each train or cut has. I am not allowed to go in between the cars without red zone protection, is what they call it. I have to be letting the engineer know that I will be in between. So 4322, conductor will be in between. Conductor's cleared. Another really big important part of my job is throwing these switches, and honestly, probably more than 95% of the switches out here on the Alaska Railroad are all manual. No, hardly any electric switches. So this is all something I have to do. And the way I do that is I make sure the tracks are clear. I walk across. I have to make sure the gap here is clear and that there's no, moose leg or anything in there. And then I'm able to throw it. And now after that's done, I come back over here, I cross the tracks, and I make sure that the point of the switch is flush against the main rail and that there will not be any sort of derailment when handling this train here.
My name is Wanda Robinson. I'm a train conductor, and I've been doing that for 33 years. I came up to Alaska when I was 18. I'm originally from Mississippi. Back then, when I came through, it was kind of like the old heads, like the grumpy old guys. It was kind of hard for me to get into this. It was kind of hard for me. Me being a black female, it was hard. Like, I had to do my job twice as hard. I really had to earn the respect and literally earn it, okay? Because I had to do my job twice as hard as any male out here. I couldn't screw up. If I screwed up, it was highlighted. Like, a male could do the same screw up as me, and it would be maybe a day and they over it, but mine was highlighted. It maybe a year later they would still be talking about it. Not like the guys. I had to always be my best. In the beginning, there were guys that were trying to make me quit, so I was determined that I was not going to let them do that. And I had talked to this one conductor, and he told me that they were trying to make me quit, and I told him, because up until then I was going to quit. And when he told me the story, and I told him I'll be here when they gone, and I'm here, and as a matter of fact, all of them are gone. Whether they retired, fired, or quit, I'm still here. They can't say a female can't do it because I've proven that. I didn't ask anybody to help me with anything. I did what I had to do. So, and by me proving that to them, and then other women's come along and showing it and not asking for help. I just think it's easier. It's a lot easier for women in this field now.
One of the important aspects about the workforce is that it's very seniority based. We are all paid equally. In the beginning, when I was struggling a lot with the physical aspects of the job, there's one gal that I messaged, I just texted, and she was all the way in Fairbanks dealing with negative 50-degree weather. She's tinier than I am too. And I was like, hey, how are you doing what you're doing? Because I need to figure out what, the technique you're using to be able to do this job. I can't do it. What are you doing? And being able to coordinate with her and talk with her, I felt a lot of support from both men and women on the railroad. Just an amazing workplace, honestly.
This building is a good example of that. When I hired out, we were in another building, the Tofsy building, with another whole craft of employees. And the locker room was the garage. So I didn't have a locker room. There was 2 single-stall bathrooms. One was clean and one was filthy. And then we built this building. We have our own nice locker room. That's a big difference from when I hired out. 21 years different. So that's why I say these girls are lucky.
From the point I started in 2005 to the point now, pretty sure we have more women working as trainmen, conductors. We don't really have a lot of engineers yet, but they're coming. They're coming. Just the way it's set up. The women that we have coming through the ranks, they'll be going to engineer class here soon. So it is definitely changing quickly.
One thing that's really interesting about engines is that they have multiple different ways of braking. Whenever it goes into an emergency braking, there's actually sand inside of these engines. And one of my jobs as a conductor is filling up these engines with sand. Also, after we are leaving and securing an engine all by itself, like it is right now, we have to apply a handbrake, and that's what this thing is here. Usually, this is the seat for the conductor, my seat. Back then, this was actually used for the brakeman's seat. This is the seat of the engineer, and this is where the most talented people get to spend their time making sure that these engines work and function properly. One thing that's interesting about trainmen in general is that engineers are usually licensed after 6 years. And so most of the time, what happens is a conductor like myself will come on board not knowing exactly what they're doing quite yet and just learning still from the engineer. But the interesting note is that the conductor, regardless, is the king and the boss of the engineer. It's kind of an interesting dynamic for sure.
So we're a very small railroad, but we haul a lot of freight that is, the only way to get it to the customer is by rail because we can't truck it. It's too much volume. And then we are very unique that we have lots of passenger trains. If we don't run, if the barges are backed up, and they like to seem to get backed up by weather in close to the holidays, Christmas, we don't have presents. We don't have the different foods that we like to eat. A lot of our freight does come in to the Port of Anchorage on big container ships, and we also move that up and down the rail. You can see our grocery stores run out of food if we don't get our barges or our ships get backed up.
If the Alaska Railroad, for whatever reason, had to stop for a whole week, like no trains were running, that would be a really bad thing. Because a lot of different people need a lot of different things all the time. I'm talking like gasoline, I'm talking essentials that are carried on the train. A lot of our flag stop trains stop for strictly passengers, people who live out in the middle of nowhere, and their only form of transportation to a grocery store is by train. They'll get out this white flag and the conductor will stop the train and they'll board the train.
So So I've worked in negative 62 degrees, and that's not for the weary. I've held a man as he's breathing his last breaths after being hit by a train. I post-holed a half mile through waist-deep snow to figure out what's wrong with the train in the middle of nowhere. And those single experiences add up to a culmination, in your career. And it's also what will break people pretty easy. They decide real quick that it's not the career for them.
Even when I was hard on her, or other crews were hard on her, she doesn't quit. I think her class started with 20, 16 of them aren't here anymore, for that reason, because they quit for one reason or another. So that's something I do appreciate about her.
One of the strengths of Rihanna is her willingness to not quit, because last winter when it was -6 and we were post-holing, I remember it very distinctly, down at the refinery looking for a tank car in the middle of the night, and she was to the point where I thought it was a 50-50 chance whether she was going to make it, and she persevered. And it shows her strength, and it shows her gumption. Rihanna's got what it takes to work here.